Every time I post a Left 4 Dead 2 video, people say they didn't know the game had bullet penetration. Yeah, it does. Now, when it comes to Half-Life videos, I can usually speak on something with total confidence because I can see the code, because the code for the games has been released by Valve, but this is not true for Left 4 Dead 1 or 2. Even among the leaked sources of code that exist online, Left 4 Dead is just strangely absent. The best I've got is the code for Counter-Strike Source and Go, and I imagine Left 4 Dead 2's bullet penetration code is a mix of the two. All this to say, I am probably going to make some errors or omissions. So the basics of bullet hit reg is that an infinitely thin line is traced out in the direction the gun was pointing, and then damage is dealt to whatever that line hits. We're not going to talk about how the game knows what this line hits, cause that's a separate video. Just trust that it's very good at correctly determining what it hits. To see if there's anything on the other side of a wall, it then looks at points in space 24, 48, 72, 96, and 120 units past the point of impact. If you're not familiar with how much one unit of distance is in Source, it's comparable to an inch, but that's also a separate video. A player's bounding box is 32 units wide. Now to find how thick the wall is. The first of these points that is found to not be inside anything solid is used as the starting point for another line that travels back to the point of impact. The distance between these 2 points represents the thickness of the wall, but there's a problem. The second line may not have hit the same thing as the first line. If we overestimate the thickness of the wall, the shot may not go through when it really should. If the 2 lines don't hit the same thing, then the second line is retraced while being set to pass through the thing it hit the first time. Rarely this isn't enough, but it's usually fine. I will use the word wall a lot in this video, but you can in fact send bullets through almost any kind of thing, even living things. I mean, that sounds obvious now, but Every weapon has a value called its penetration power. This represents how good the gun is at penetrating through solid material. All rifles, the Magnum and the M60 have a value of 50. Shotguns, SMGs, and the pistol have a value of 30. Every type of material has a penetration modifier. This represents how difficult it is to penetrate the material, with higher values meaning it's easier. Here is every type of material by penetration modifier. The maximum thickness a gun can penetrate is its penetration power times the material's penetration modifier. A gun with 30 penetration power could penetrate a 12-unit thick concrete wall, although we may as well subtract 1 from that figure because to actually penetrate that wall, the gun would need to be aimed inhumanly perfectly into the wall and have perfect accuracy. Some interesting things to point out. Metal becomes harder to penetrate when the surface the bullet exits from is not metal. Glass and wood can be penetrated at the same depth by all guns. If the bullet is able to penetrate the wall, then a new line will be traced starting where the second line hit to continue the bullet's path. The damage of the bullet, surprisingly, is not reduced at all by penetrating a wall. And now a bunch of other things that didn't fit anywhere else. You cannot hurt teammates with a bullet that has penetrated a wall. This can sometimes be exploited to help clear infected off your teammates without worrying about friendly fire. A bullet can only penetrate one wall, except for glass, which can be penetrated an infinite number of times. You can also still hurt your teammates through glass. Shotguns can only penetrate walls if the shots traveled less than 500 units to reach the wall. Shotguns have a property that allows them to penetrate living things an infinite number of times within 300 units of the attacking survivor, unless the bullet has already penetrated and it hits a teammate. For sniper rifles, this value is set to the full 8,192 units that the bullet travels. This isn't really much of an exploitable mechanic, more so just what you would expect these guns to act like. You cannot penetrate walls if you have an ammo upgrade unless you're shooting glass with incendiary rounds. Some metal grates can be shot through cleanly, never even activating the penetration code, while others will. You should be cautious about those other ones. On those grates, since it would count as bullet penetration, you cannot shoot through them if you have an ammo upgrade, but you also won't have to worry about friendly fire. Bots are capable of wallbanging too, though the only time you'll see it is if an infected is behind glass or grating. They will shoot even if it's not possible to penetrate. Even if an infected has an outline due to boomer bile, survivor bots won't shoot at it through opaque walls. Only the surface that the bullet hits is considered when determining what penetration modifier to use, except with metal as was mentioned earlier. This means some walls can be penetrated one way but not the other. Okay, that was a lot, so cliff notes. These guns have 50 power and these ones have 30. Higher power means the gun penetrates thicker walls. 50 power guns will penetrate most things up to 35 units thick, and for 30 power, 29 units. There is no damage reduction, and the gun's damage does not impact its ability to penetrate, although obviously there's some correlation between damage and power. You cannot hurt your teammates through walls unless it's glass. Now, some strategy. Be mindful of the angle you shoot the wall at. The thickness of the wall is measured in the direction the bullet traveled, so if you hit at a bad angle, the bullet won't penetrate. You can throw Boomer Bile near Special Infected and use their pink outlines to shoot them through walls. If you're playing as Infected and get hit with Bile, you might be about to get hit with a lot of bullet penetration, so act accordingly. Wallbangs can make a huge difference when fighting Infected, mainly in versus. It's always worth it to fire at some common spots in certain maps. If you're being attacked by a boomer, remember you can wallbang him to stay safe from the explosion. You can also shut down boomers before they have a chance on you. You can practice this a lot in the flu season mutation. When your teammates are grabbed by Special Infected, the Special will have an outline that you can shoot, except the Smoker. You can still usually hit smokers through walls if you look at how the survivor is positioned. And finally, some wallbangs that I like.
Incoming!
This can be a very good area for Infected to attack at, but you can shoot through basically everything here, except this long wall. I don't know why you can't shoot through this wall. It's 16 units thick, so it should be penetrable. When trying that texture out in my testing map, I could penetrate it up to 20 units thick, which aligns with the 0.4 modifier figure. You can also shoot through these two walls, which are the same thickness. So that's just really weird.
Incoming! Tongue! Puke in the hole!
This section has wood boards on both sides. In order for your shot to actually go through, you'll need to avoid both sets of boards.
Incoming! Incoming! Got it! Incoming!
Some of the gas cans can be shot through walls. This can catch Infected off guard. The glass in the elevator is a bit weird. If you shoot boomers through the glass, the explosion will still hit you, so actually don't shoot that boomer. If you get a witch spawn right outside the elevator, you can set it off early with a wallbang. The witch will take a very long path up to you and she's very easy to kill. This is so effective in versus that some competitive places banned the strat. There's a bug where shadows can sometimes go through walls and floors. Here's how you can tell where enemies are on the roof from their buggy shadows.
Puke in the hole!
Rarely someone will get caught in this area after everyone else has dropped. The fastest way to save them is to shoot the smoker through this part, but sometimes this won't work, so here's a more reliable way.
Fight amongst yourselves!
You can see shadows through these floors.
Grenade! Duck and cover!